Biblical fasting is the practice of abstaining from food for spiritual purposes. The true purpose for fasting is to humble the soul. The soul, which comprises of the will, the emotions, and the intellect, is where the sinful desires are found. The will deals with what you want. The intellect deals with what you think. And the emotions deal with what you feel. Basically, the soul is subject to the flesh, and it is where we find the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Fasting is mentioned in the Bible 70 times. Fasting is also known as afflicting the soul, which means to break the sinful and lustful desires of the soul and to bring the soul under the control of the Spirit of God. It is a form of submission and humility to God. Fasting is a Christian spiritual discipline that is taught in the Bible. In the New Testament, we see that Jesus Christ expects all his followers to fast, and he promises a reward to everyone that fasts. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 17, Jesus says, "But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Some Christians do their fast by abstaining from pleasures or from doing things they enjoy besides food. For example, television, mobile phones, internet, games, sports, social media, and for married couples, sex, for spiritual purposes in order to connect with God. Fasting demonstrates the depth of your desire when praying for something. It shows that you are serious enough about your prayer request to pay a personal price. God honors deep desire and praying in faith. However, in the traditional Christian fasting, it implied abstaining from food. Fasting, according to the Bible, means to voluntarily reduce or eliminate your intake of food for a specific time and purpose. The most common type of fasting is known as the water fast, where you abstain from solid foods but take water. The second type of fast is known as the dry fast, also known as the absolute fast, which restricts both food and liquid. There are some do's and don'ts to effectively benefit from fasting. You are not required to fast for purposes of showing off to display holiness. Matthew chapter 6 verse 16 says, "Whenever you fast, do not put on a gloomy face as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance so that they will be noticed by men when they are fasting." Fasting should go hand in hand with prayer. Fasting means setting everything aside in order to have communion with God through prayer. Ezra chapter 8 verse 23 says, "So we fasted and prayed to our God for this, and he responded to us." During the fasting period, it is good to feed the hungry and help the needy. Isaiah chapter 58 verse 5 to 7 says, "Share your food with the hungry and open your homes to the homeless poor. Give clothes to those who have nothing to wear, and do not refuse to help your own relatives. Then my favor will shine on you like the morning sun, and your wounds will be quickly healed. I will always be with you to save you. My presence will protect you on every side." Fasting has several spiritual benefits. Fasting puts the flesh under the control of the spirit. You receive discipline over your appetite and helps to protect against uncontrolled cravings and breaking addictive habits. Through fasting, you receive power to overcome Satan and dark spirits. Read Matthew chapter 4 verse 1 to 4. Fasting prepares you for the work of God when beginning ministry. Read Acts chapter 14 verse 23. Fasting helps you hear clearly what the will of God is about any matter. You receive clarity and purpose. Read Acts chapter 13 verse 2. Fasting helps you petition heaven for God's will to come to pass. Fasting brings healing. Read Psalms chapter 35 verse 13 to 14. Fasting is a sacrifice that delights God. Fasting increases spiritual authority. Read Matthew chapter 17 verse 19 to 21. Fasting attracts God's protection over your life and your loved ones. Read Ezra chapter 8 verse 21. Fasting teaches you dependence on God. Read Matthew chapter 4 verse 3 to 4. Fasting enables you to endure during the tests and trying times. Fasting humbles and changes you. Fasting delivers individuals and nations from spiritual troubles. Read Isaiah chapter 58 verse 6. Fasting has several health benefits. Fasting can bring favor of God on your life. Read Esther chapter 4, verse 16. In conclusion, fasting allows you to be refined spiritually, physically, and emotionally. As a Christian, it is important to be intentional by setting apart special time always to surrender and commune with God through fasting and prayer. This will attract God's blessings and divine appointments. Through fasting, God wants to bring your life into alignment with His will for your life. Fasting and prayer will restore and strengthen your intimacy with God.
Benefits of Fasting by Pastor Jamesboy Imani, brought to you by my Beautifier Community Youth Uganda.